The Radio Forest Podcast.
Hi, Forrest. It's Gary Hoey calling.
Gary, how are you this year?
I'm doing very good. How are you, my friend?
Doing great. Do you have your guitar handy as usual?
You know what? I had a cup of coffee in the other hand, and then I got I got a guitar right here.
I knew you would, man.
Absolutely.
So coffee, is it decaf? I heard you might have stopped drinking coffee.
Well, I actually switched to decaf, man. I went off the caffeine a little while back, and I'm feeling a little better, man. I think I was getting too wired on the caffeine, you know.
How much coffee or caffeine were you having a day, and how did you realize it became an issue?
You know, it was just, a cup in the morning and then another cup, and then, you get the afternoon crash, and my mom, coffee time with my mom, there's another cup or two. I didn't even notice it that much, but I just was like, I'm going to try switching to decaf and see what happens, and it helped me sleeping better, and, I had a headache for a few days, for sure. There's a withdrawal, no doubt.
Yeah, that was my next question. I've given up caffeine a couple of times just to kind of test my fortitude, and the headaches would last. I had like a week or two, but it was just a couple of days, and you were fine?
Yeah, I mean, it was probably longer than a couple of days, but it went away. You don't feel that pick-me-up once you have the coffee. As time went on, I'm like, you know what, I'm okay. I'm all right with this for now. I'm sure I'm getting caffeine somewhere else.
Can I ask you, how is your mom and how is your sister doing?
Thanks for asking, man. My mom's doing good. I've been hanging out with her. She got the COVID thing, and she got past it. Now she just has this lingering, thing that's keeping her a little bit under the weather. It seems it's just lingering on. But thanks for asking. My sister is doing great in her battle with cancer. She's finished her radiation. She's doing some chemo now, and we're staying positive. She's got a great positive attitude, man. And her and friends of mine and family, people we know, are all going through the same thing. We're like so many families that we just got to stay positive and just take every day and make the best.
Now, you've got the 2022 Ho Ho Hoey Rockin' Holiday Tour. So you've been touring for, 30 years plus that. I've heard rock stars talk about this before, and touring musicians, about how much you miss out on birthdays and holidays and anniversaries and first days of school, even people passing away. Have you lost quite a bit from being a touring musician?
Well, for me personally, I probably haven't lost as much as some people have. I have a good relationship with my son and my daughter, my wife, obviously, and I always try to be careful about not letting, it just miss out on everything. For instance, birthdays. I would always be home for my kids' birthdays, so I would just do blackout dates at the beginning of the year, and blackout dates where I knew I wanted to be around, holidays. And then just, even when I'm home, working in the studio at the house, it's making sure I'm sitting down at dinner with the kids for dinner every night. And if my son wanted to shoot hoop or if the kids wanted to play, I would always take the time. And when they would come in the studio and say, Daddy, you're too busy, I would always say, nope, I got time, let's do it. Because you'll never get that time back, ever. And when they get older, they don't even want to hang out with you. And I just told my wife, I'm like, you know what? Disney can wait. I can work till 4 a.m. Right now, the kids want to play checkers. You know what I mean? So that's what I did, and it kept me connected to my family.
I'm projecting here, but do you feel like it was a blessing to not get that gig with Ozzy Osbourne? And I'll explain. You look at Gus G, or you look at Zakk Wylde, even Randy Rhoads. The first thing they are is a guitarist for Ozzy Osbourne. Now, Zakk, obviously, he's got Black Label Society. Now he's going to tour and be the guy in Pantera, which is great, but he's still that Ozzy guy, and he refers to Ozzy as the boss. So if the boss calls and says, hey, we're doing a 13-month tour, we're going overseas, you got to go. And then also, you're not really Gary Hoey. You're Gary Hoey from Ozzy Osbourne. Did you come to that realization?
Well, I think for me, getting a chance to even play with Ozzy and having him even bring me in was the greatest thing that happened to my career. Absolutely. It was the biggest thing to happen and to get me on the right road. And then not getting the job, I absolutely have thought about it a bunch of times, and I wonder where my life would have gone. And I think, I would have been spending most of it living in a bunk in a bus, and I probably would not have the relationship I have with my family. So I don't know if it would have been a worse thing, and maybe we'd be living in a bigger house. Maybe we'd have more things, but I don't know if I'd be happier,
Because if you wanted more money now, though, Gary, you could do more tours, right? You've got your holiday tour, you've got your rockin' cruise that you do, but you're not touring 200, 300 days a year. Am I correct? You could do more if you wanted to. Now, I'm not saying you're not doing enough, but if you're like, I need a couple $100 a month, you could do more stuff, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I could tour nonstop if I wanted to. But I definitely have chosen to slow down the touring, with my family being around and stuff. And you're absolutely right. You make enough money, I make enough money, to live and to feed my kids and my family, and I have for decades now, and it's a blessing. But you can keep, you can say yes to everything and be gone all the time, or you can say, you know what, I think I'm gonna be a little bit more picky, with what you do.
Now, Gary's giving away an autographed Fender guitar Christmas Day. It's at GaryHoey.com. You can register to win that. The Rock Legends Cruise is coming with Roger Daltrey, Gary Hoey, Deep Purple, Thorogood, Lou Gramm, Marshall Tucker Band, Night Ranger. But, Gary, before I go too far in asking questions, and we just talked the entire time, you did have your guitar handy. Why don't you give us a little sample of the kind of rock and roll Christmas vibe that you give in case people listening haven't heard you do these classic tunes in the Gary Hoey style?
Absolutely. You'll have to play a couple things. My mom wanted me to do a Christmas record. She wanted the old, I wanted to do like... That's what I wanted to do, the Grinch.
Now, do you ever have to pay royalties for some of these classic songs, the 12 Days of Christmas, the Grinch, or are they so old they're kind of public domain? I don't really know how all that works.
Some of them, yeah. Some of them are public domain, and some of them, no. Some of them still have license where you just have to make sure you credit the publishing and everything, and then they get their royalty based on the sales. So yeah, it goes both ways.
Can you give us a little sample of Van Halen? I know when Eddie passed, you did a little video in remembrance of him. I know you've got 5150 amps, and he was an inspiration to you. Can you give us a little Van Halen?
Absolutely, man. I'd be happy to. Love Eddie. Miss him so much. Yeah.
That's great. One more request. Can you give me some Ozzy, but can you do two different guitars? Can you do Ozzy with Tony Iommi? And can you do the classic Randy Rhoads Ozzy?
Yep, absolutely, man. Let's go for a little bit of, how about a little...
And I know you've got some guitar playing, but I think you did some producing too, right? Doesn't Lita Ford have a new album coming out in 2023?
Yes. Lita has a new record coming out that I produced and co-wrote with her after, following up the Living Like a Runaway album. And it's a great album, man. She is in top form. It just sounds amazing. Max Norman mixed it, who did Megadeth and Ozzy. I'm really proud of this record, man. I can't wait for her to get it out.
Now, she's got a different touring band, right? Will you do any live appearances with her? Or does she have her own group and that ship, so to speak, has sailed?
She has a great band right now, but her and I have talked about me possibly coming out for this new record and doing some touring with her and maybe jumping on part of the tour with her. So I'm going to see what she decides and what we can make happen.
I'm going to ask you a question. It's going to sound weird. I can explain if I need to. Guitars in the house, sometimes you walk by, you see it, and you stop and play it before you even know what you're doing. I assume it's even more so with you, and I know you play a lot at home. You're staying on top of the chops. You're always ready to go. Have you ever played your guitar naked? Have you ever been through your house, and before you know it, you're sitting down? You're like, well, no one's home. I don't care. Has that ever happened?
Yeah, man, absolutely. I've played naked before. Not when you come out of the shower because you're soaking wet, but there's definitely a time where I know I played naked for some reason. Like I just picked it up and I'm like, okay, I'm going to put this on. But sometimes you got to be careful because there's like these springs that are in back of the, the plate there, and if the springs are exposed, it can get caught. And all of a sudden, your Willie stuck in the Wemby bar.
But do you find yourself doing that? You're like, oh, I'm just going to walk back here and grab something, and all of a sudden, half an hour's gone by, and your wife's like, hey, what are you doing? You're like, oh, next thing I know, I had a guitar in my hand. I don't even know how that happened.
I am a freak like that. You wouldn't even believe it. When I'm done at the end of the day, and I'm shutting down my studio, this is like so geeky. As I'm walking out of the studio, I see like all these guitars on stands, different ones that I own and then I love, and I stop and I go, oh, you, and I pick it up and I'll just go, I'll go, good night, and then I walk by the acoustic and I pick that up and I'm like, oh, and I'll just start playing something on the acoustic and put it down and go, good night, and I have to play guitars as I walk by them. It's the stupidest thing.
Now, I know you guys were friendly in the past. Do you still have any contact with Godsmack? Question being, have you heard any of the new album that's coming out?
I haven't talked to Sully in a long time, actually. We did a charity event together in Boston over the COVID thing where we raised a bunch of money for the food bank. And we both helped out on that, and I hadn't talked to him since then. So it's been a while. I definitely love him. I'm a big fan, and I haven't heard any of the new stuff yet.
What's Christmas like in your current family situation? And as a kid, what do you remember it being like, say, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day?
My Christmas situation here is definitely great. I mean, I love having the holiday with the family. And, my kids, our tradition is they always get to open up a gift, like one gift on Christmas Eve. Then we save everything for Christmas morning. We always play some of the old classics. We got to play a little Ho Ho Hoey. And Christmas is growing up. The only weird thing is my mom had like this OCD about the Christmas tree. She wouldn't let us help her with the decorations. So she would put all the balls on, and I would try to put one on. She'd go, no, we got to move it over here. So it wasn't what I expected as a kid. I thought we'd all decorate the tree, but we would have probably ruined it because my mom did such a great job. She always gave us a great Christmas, but I still tease her about that. I'm like, you wouldn't even help me decorate. Let me help you with the tree.
How has that affected you with your kids and them decorating the tree? You just like do whatever you want to do?
Yeah, I'm the complete opposite. I'm just like, you put the decorations on. If they pile up 4 red bulbs in one spot, I'm not saying nothing.
Real quick, you've got quite a few blues albums out too, right?
Yes. Yeah, the last few records I've been doing more of a blues thing, and this new record coming out in the new year is going to be more of a rock album than a blues record because I'm kind of the songs just came out, so I think the new one's going to be a little more rock, actually. And even losing to Eddie Van Halen, it's funny you should mention Eddie because it made me want to write some songs that had a little more that guitar pyrotechnics, and I don't want to let that go, so I'm trying to push myself more on the new one.
Well, Gary, good luck on the cruise, on the tour, and the new album. Thank you so much for calling us today.
Oh, thank you, Forrest. Always a pleasure, my friend.